So then guys, it's here, the new Mac Mini, and today I'm going to do an unboxing of this brand new Apple product in its brand new design, and I'm really excited to unbox this and check this out for you guys. And obviously we're also going to compare it to the older Mac Mini with the M2. This is the box here, but I do have the M2 Mac Mini already unboxed. I've already had it for, almost 2 years now. But like I said, we're going to do a couple of tests, and also we're going to check out what the differences is between both of these actual models. And let's get started then with the unboxing with the brand new M4 Mac Mini. So as you can see here, the box is a completely different shape, and look at this, you've got Mac Mini. I love that. You twist it all the way around, Mac Mini. I love that. That is awesome to actually have. I really like this cubed sort of design. We've got everything here on the bottom. Again, all the usual sort of labels, paper labels and everything like that. And in fact, let's tear this open. So obviously it's paper. Now we can just rip these off with a bit of sticky. Apple have had these for a good number of years now, so this is really good to see. So that is that. And let's just twist this back open. And now the big reveal, my favorite part. Let's pull this off. And let's have a look what's underneath straight away. Wow, it's the Mac Mini right away. That is awesome. Look at that. And wow, look at the size of it. It's tiny. Just putting it in my hand here. Yeah, that is small as. Obviously, you've got some paper sort of wrappings here. Got the ports and everything and stuff like this. Got the power button on the bottom and things like this. Fan grills, more ports on the rear and everything. That is pretty dinky and pretty cool. Let's put that to one side for the moment. Let's see what else is inside of this box. So just put your finger in here and let's have a look. We've got the power. This is the UK version, our funky plug that we actually have here. So yeah, that's cool. It's braided, that cable. So that is really good to see. Let's see then what else we've got in here. These are these sort of bits and pieces, information telling you about the Mac Mini, how to turn it on, plug it in, all the different ports, information. I like how it's round here. This is pretty cool. I do like that. And a few bits of other information on the back. And underneath then, let's have a look. Let's put everything back here away, and let's go back to the main Mac Mini. Let's get this off then, the main paper. Let's find where you actually peel this off if I can. I think it's on, yeah, it's on the front here. That's where it is. So what I do is just get my finger underneath this part here, peel this all the way around. Yeah, that's a good feeling when you get to do this on a brand new product. I love this. And then obviously let's just peel the other side as well, down and across. And there we go. And finally, let's just get this bottom piece off with the round sort of disc there. What is pretty cool. And that is the unboxing then of the new Mac Mini M4. So they weren't lying then to us guys that this new Mac Mini is tiny. It really is mini, and it's quite light as well, especially it's like made out of this aluminium kind of build quality. Look at that. I can just stick it in my hand there. And yeah, that is tiny. It really is. I absolutely love this design. It's absolutely gorgeous. The power button placement, well, that's one thing we'll talk about a little bit later on because I actually have a solution for that. What I want to show you guys was pretty cool. But overall, I absolutely love the new design. I love the new ports at the front. We've still got the 3 ports on the rear here and everything. It looks absolutely amazing. And just to show you guys here, look at this. This here is the old Mac Mini. This is here the M2 model, not the M2 Pro. And yeah, just look at that in difference there. Obviously, the old one is a little bit slimmer, but who cares too much? The newer one obviously is a little bit thicker, but in form factor, it is absolutely tiny. Just showing you the difference there. Just look at that. It is tiny in comparisons. I really think this is definitely now a mini machine. So really loving this design compared to the older design. Nothing wrong with the old design, but yeah, definitely, I am loving this. And just look here, I'm going to get an Apple TV. So this is the current Apple TV. Look at the size difference here. This is the Apple TV. I've got a couple of scratches being used. But look at that. It's only a little bit smaller. It's not that much smaller, to be honest. That is pretty awesome. It's tiny in comparison. So yeah, this is definitely a great small Mac Mini. And look, just to compare the old Mac Mini, here it is. I'm just going to put it on it here. Stack them all up. Let's do that. Look at that for form factor. Look at that for size difference. They have really made the Mac Mini Mini. Look at it. It's incredible. That is just really, really tiny to actually see that. And just to show you here, obviously the new Mac Mini is a bit more thicker on the front, but yeah, it is really, really cool. So yeah, look at that. It's just tiny. I can't believe it on everything. I'm just going to show you again, just to show you a bit more clearer here, the sort of thickness. Obviously, it's a bit more thicker than the previous generation, but overall, it's not too bad on everything there. So yeah, just lining that up for you, just to show you. So yeah, not too bad on the actual thickness. I prefer obviously having it slightly thicker, but obviously way smaller than the last generation. And obviously, yeah, just to show you here on the rear what that looks like, the differences. Obviously, we had the plastic back on the old Mac Mini, and it's all metal, aluminum, aluminium, but obviously that difference there, and obviously the thickness there, you can see the difference. So that is pretty awesome. And just to show you here the thickness as well for the actual Apple TV, obviously it is definitely a smaller device, but it's not that much more smaller. It really, really is incredible what Apple have done here with the Mac Mini and how small they've actually made it here. I'm trying to get different angles for you guys to see it, so you can actually see the sort of same sort of difference. There you go, stacking it on top here and everything. And obviously we've got the ports at the front, but it does look absolutely awesome. So moving on from this end, the comparison, how it looks to the old Mac Mini and also the Apple TV, let's talk about the different ports that we have on the M2 Mac Mini and also what we now have on the brand new M4 Mac Mini. Let's have a quick talk about them. So I will go into a few more details with the ports, but just here off the top, we've got the power, we've also got the Ethernet port, we've got HDMI, and we've also got 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports on the M4 here. And then switching around to the front, what we've got here is just 2 of the USB-C Thunderbolt 4 ports, also the 3.5 headphone jack, and also the sort of power button. That's what we've also got on the front. And then in comparison to the M2 Mac Mini, we had the power, we had the Ethernet port, we had 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports on the rear here with the M2 version. Then there was HDMI, and then there was 2 USB 3.0 ports on the back, the USB-A and also the headphone jack. But there were no ports anywhere else on this Mac Mini. So I said earlier that the power button is a bit of a bummer where it is. You can see it's right here on the bottom, but I actually have a bit of a solution for this. So I actually have been working before the Mac Mini came out. I managed to get this. Let me show you what I've got right here. This here is a 3D print of sort of a button press. It's like a shortcut kind of button to actually turn on the actual power button. So you can see here, it's got like a little switch sort of thing. It'll flick this sort of lever at the bottom here. It's not doing very well. It needs the actual button underneath it to fully work. But just to show you here, guys, if I just sort of flip this over now and just put it under, the great news, because of that fan lifting up, it just slots in underneath it because it's sort of arched up. But then what we can do is we can actually just press the button and it will turn on. Let me just show you a demo of this. Obviously, here's the Mac Mini. It's switched off, connected up to a desktop. Now if I just click it here, it will now turn on. So let's just see then if it actually boots up. Obviously, it takes a second on a third-party screen to see everything appearing. So you obviously no hands or anything like that. And come on, there we go. There we go. And there we go. That's my little solution there for the power button. What's really, really cool. So next of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about the performance on both of these devices. And I think first of all what I'll do is I'll show you the sort of Geekbench sort of scores that we have with the M2, the M4, and also I'll show the old M1 as well, because they're quite interesting to see how far we have come in just a matter of about 4 years since the original Mac Mini with the Apple Silicon M1 came inside of it. Let's check this out then. So as you can see here in the chart, obviously, yeah, there's leaps and bounds differences here. Obviously, the M1 to the M2, there was a bit of a difference. Obviously, we're getting about 2,300 in single core performance on the M1, then 2,600 sort of range on the M2. But just look at that, 3,800 figure for single core performance on the M4. What is absolutely amazing to see. And then multi-core performance as well. This was amazing to see that obviously the M1 to the M2, there wasn't that much in it there in the kind of multi-core performance, but look at this now with the M4, even comparing it to the M2, you know, that is a massive difference. We're talking over a 50% increase in speed here, and almost double, I would say, the speed of what we got in, say, the M1. Obviously, we're not quite there yet, but we're getting close to it. You know, we're talking a good sort of 85 sort of percent faster than compared to the original M1 Mac Mini. It was absolutely unbelievable to see. And like I said, don't forget that the original M1 Mac Mini only came out about 4 years ago, and we've made this much progress in this amount of time with performance. Well, it's absolutely incredible to see. But then, what about the actual graphics then? What kind of performance gains have we got here? Well, again, we've got the M1, the M2, and the M4, and just look at that. Obviously, the M2 over the M1 had a really, really great gain there, but look at that M4 in the 53,000s compared to, say, the sort of close to 32,000, I would say. Again, like I said, we're talking about like an 85%, 90% kind of increase in graphics score just here on Geekbench 6 Metal kind of graphics sort of benchmarking, and this is absolutely phenomenal to see. I also did a Cinebench as well, so having a look here, you can see the Cinebench sort of scores, and obviously again, the M4 is way ahead than the original M2 Mac Mini here. We're definitely getting some great performance gains here with all these cores and everything inside of them. But then, what about Blackmagic disk speed test? Apple cheapened out on us when we had the M2 Mac Mini when that came along. So yeah, this is definitely going to be interesting to see. And you can see even here with these speeds just running here, it is faster. And in fact, let's have a look at the chart right here. And look at that, you can see a massive difference. In the sort of read speeds, we got 1,500 on the M2, and then we got a 1,400 on the right. But look at that, it's almost double on the M4, 3,000 and also 3,400. This is absolutely incredible to see. And so this is great that Apple have not cheapened out this time. I've also exported in Final Cut Pro with a 10-minute video, 4K, HEVC, and look at this difference here in seconds. Lower is better, obviously. The M2 8GB did it in 314 seconds, whereas the M4 with 16GB of RAM inside of it managed to export this exact same project in 218 seconds. So this is definitely a good improvement, what we have got here. And those cores are definitely working really hard inside of both of these machines. And talk about cores, what have we actually got then inside of the Mac Minis, these both of them here? Well, the original M2 Mac Mini, when this one came out, well, this actually came out with an 8-core CPU and also a 10-core GPU, or up to 10-core GPU option, what we could actually pick with the M2. Obviously, the M2 Pro also came inside of this. That was really, really great to see. But talking about the baseline kind of versions here, these are going to be the most popular ones that are going to be sold here. That is what we got there. Whereas now with the M4 Mac Mini, we actually have now a 10-core CPU inside of this and also a 10-core GPU too. What is absolutely phenomenal to actually see. Obviously, that CPU is now made up of 6 efficiency cores and 4 performance cores, what is great. Obviously, we're on a newer sort of nanometer sort of process. We're on 3 nanometer, where this was still on a 5 nanometer process with the M2. So we're far more efficient, far more power. Clock speeds have gone up, and this is really, really great to see. And then also with RAM, we actually have different choices with the amount of RAM now. The original M2 Mac Mini, well, you could pick between an 8GB, you could also pick the 16GB and also the 24GB option. Whereas now, Apple finally have made it standard that 16GB of RAM is the base amount you can get inside the Mac Mini, just like this model that I've got right here. What's great to see, so you've got the 16, you've got the 24, and you can also pick 32GB of RAM if you want that in here. So technically, we've kind of gone like a tier upwards, as it were, in RAM, and really the only sort of 2 things that have been kept the same as the 16 and the 24, but obviously we've lost the 8, gained the 32, and then for the Mac Mini M2, obviously we didn't have the choice of the 32GB option inside of this. But then what about storage options for the Mac Mini? Well, the Mac Mini with the M4 starts at 256GB of storage, just like the Mac Mini M2 did. This actually had 256 gigabytes of storage as well and could go up to 2 terabytes just with the M2 or the M4. Obviously, if you go for the M2 Pro or the M4 Pro, well, you can go all the way up to 8 terabytes now with the new Mac Mini. Well, it's really, really great. But obviously, you get the choice with the normal M4 and the M2 that you can go 256, 512, 1 terabyte, and 2 terabyte sort of options. But obviously, that will cost you a fair bit to ladder up like that. And it's the same thing with the actual RAM as well. If you actually push more RAM into either of these devices, obviously the price can go up like $200 a time. So yeah, just be aware of that. But next of all, what about the heat on these Macs? Have fans inside of them, and the old M2 Mac Mini really kept its heat really under control, because obviously that fan what was inside of this was actually designed for the old Intel chips, and obviously they were much more sort of beastie and much more heaty, as it were. So yeah, this has actually managed to keep Apple Silicon really cool, no problems there whatsoever. And it's the same here with the M4 Mac Mini. The new design, the new fan sort of way how it works that Apple have shown right here, that it comes in through one way at the bottom and goes all the way around and comes out the other side at the bottom too, what is really quite cool. And so far in this initial review, I've not noticed any kind of heat ups by doing benchmarks or doing some initial tests, anything like that. They're basically as cool as each other, so having that fan does really help out inside of either of these devices. But let's move on to the ports and everything on the back of these Mac Minis a bit more in detail. Now, one thing I find absolutely fascinating, what I found with the old Mac Mini, was you see the power that we've got right here? Obviously, the actual power supply, the brick as it were, is actually inside of this Mac Mini. And again, it's something what Apple have managed to achieve again with this new M4 Mac Mini. Everything, the power, everything is inside of it. There are lots of other kind of companies out there who sell something in this kind of form factor, but the actual power supply is like a laptop kind of brick sort of thing, if you know what I mean. It keeps it onto one side. It's not actually inside of the device. And this is where I think something that Apple have really shined on, especially with this new form factor Mac Mini, that we have the fan in here, we have all these ports, we have the M4, the M4 Pro, and the power supply all in the device this small, keeping it nice and cool. What is absolutely amazing. I think this is absolutely brilliant how Apple have managed to achieve this. But let's talk a bit more detail about the other ports on this Mac Mini. Now, something that I did mention at the beginning of this video was obviously the Mac Mini now finally has Thunderbolt ports at the front, just like the Mac Studio, and this is great to see. And in fact, there's a total of 5 Thunderbolt 4 ports here on the M4 Mac Mini. Now, if you go for the M4 Pro, well, they get upgraded to Thunderbolt 5. But still, Thunderbolt 4 is great, and obviously we only had 2 of them if you bought the M2 Mac Mini. If you bought the M2 Pro, you actually got 4 on the rear, but you only get 2 on this one. Obviously, you also still had the 2 USB-A ports, something what is missing on the new Mac Mini. A little bit of a shame that has disappeared, because at least could do with one, I would say, for some of you guys who've got like a keyboard and mouse that obviously still use USB-A, not USB-C sort of receiver. But obviously, you can still just get adapter and just chuck that in the back there, USB-C to USB-A. But the main thing is that basically for the M4 and the M2, both of them have got Thunderbolt 4 ports, and with that, you get speeds up to 40 gigabits per second, what is really great to see. But then next to those USB-C Thunderbolt ports, you also get a HDMI port, just like what we got on the old Mac Mini, that had one too. And this means with the M4 and also the normal M2, you can actually plug in up to 2 monitors in the rear of this. So one in the HDMI port and then one in the USB-C, or maybe you want to put 2 into the USB ports or USB-C ports as it were. It's up to you, and obviously Apple give the full range of how many kind of sort of screens you can plug in and what resolutions you're going to get. More details are on their website. But something else what I also love an upgrade on, that is the Ethernet port. Now, the standard M4 Mac Mini does come with, say, a 1 gigabit port, but you can actually upgrade this now to a 10 gigabit port, and you can have this on the M4 and the M4 Pro, which is really awesome to see. So this means that if you wanted to plug this into, say, a NAS or, you know, a storage array, and actually work off that and get high speed sort of speeds, or if you're working with other people, moving files around, this is going to be great to actually have, a great upgrade to actually pay out for, I would definitely say. And it's good to see that this is inside this Mac Mini. We still also got the standard gigabit sort of Ethernet port on the rear of the Mac Mini 2 of the older version. And this also could be upgraded as well to a faster speed. Now, something else was quite remarkable about these Mac Minis is the actual weight of them, if you did want to carry them around. This Mac Mini here weighs less than 700 grams, whereas the older Mac Mini, well, this one actually weighs a total of 1.3 kilograms, or just under that. So we're talking, less than half the weight of the older Mac Mini. What is absolutely crazy to think that that's how heavy one of these are compared to the older one. I think that's great to see. Obviously, this is super lightweight. You can easily chuck this in your bag, take it away with you as a sort of device, plug it into, say, another desktop, some monitor and keyboard and mouse, and you can get going with this. This is definitely a great form factor device, what I absolutely love. But moving on to macOS and what we're getting here, well, both of these can run the latest macOS, and obviously this is 15 Sequoia at the moment at the time of making this video, and we've also got some Apple Intelligence goodies right now. So those sort of writing tools and that cleanup tool in Photos, that's really, really handy to have, and obviously these work perfectly well on both of these Mac Minis. Now, one thing that I would say is that most likely that this Mac Mini here, the M2 one, is probably only going to get support probably for about another 5 years, maybe 6 years at a push, I would say, would support going into the future. Whereas the brand new Mac Mini M4, obviously, yeah, this will definitely be getting, say, macOS updates for the next, say, 7 years at the very least. But then it also comes down to the pricing and the value of both of these Mac Minis. Now, for me, I'm actually quite shocked that Apple actually managed to retain the price of the Mac Mini with a new design. Apple, traditionally in the past, when they bring out like a brand new design, as it were, they like to bump up the price of the actual product. And I'm actually quite surprised that this time they didn't do that. We can actually pick up the M4 Mac Mini for $599 US, or if you're an education user, you can actually pick this up for $499 US. And that's the same in pounds in my country here in the UK, so it's £499 if you're an education user, or £599, if you went and bought it in the shop. But I'm quite sure that even very soon into the near future, the likes of Amazon and things like this, even with Black Friday, you're going to be able to get them probably less than that. At normal kind of price, maybe you might not be able to get down to the education price, but I've got a feeling of $550 or £550, or even at the time of making this video, that might even be the case. So, Apple might have reduced them straight away. But for what you're getting inside of this is absolutely amazing. You've got to remember that just even the standard sort of M4 inside of it, in its performance wise to the 2019 most powerful Mac Pro that was out at the time, just look at the benchmark sort of scores that we've got here in difference. The Mac Mini is way ahead here. It is absolutely phenomenal. And remember, those kind of Mac Pros back then, they were costing you, I don't know, they were costing up to about £50,000 or up to $50,000 if you pushed it all out with all the configurations and had the maximum amount of everything. Obviously, you could pick more storage and more RAM inside of that Mac Pro, but even the baseline sort of version were costing about $6,000, whereas now we can pick up one of these for just $600 or even less, $500, and yet we get that so much power inside of it. It's absolutely incredible value what you're getting, especially, like I said, that was only 5 years ago that those Mac Pros came out. This is an amazing device. This is something that I would say that any Apple fan or anybody who's looking to sort of step into the Apple territory for the first time and obviously just want something as small as a footprint like this Mac Mini is definitely one of my favorite devices. And in fact, I'm going to probably say it's my favorite Mac product that's come out in 2024, even more than the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and I absolutely love this. But what I would say is if you can get the M2 Mac Mini at a good discount price, I would even say now if it's starting to touch into say the $300 sort of range, $399 or something like this, then obviously look out for those deals, because obviously this is still a great device to have in 2024. But personally, I would splash out that extra $100 or so and get yourself this Mac Mini, in my own personal opinion. But with that as well, guys, what do you think of the brand new Mac Mini? Do you think it's awesome? Are you going to be getting one, or have you got one on order? Let me know in the comments below. And with that as well, guys, it's time to wrap up this video. So if you have enjoyed watching it, please do press the like button. Also, if you want to hear the latest Apple news, reviews and comparisons like we've done today, make sure you subscribe to this channel and also hit that notification bell. Until next time, guys, I'll see you really soon. Take care. Bye bye.